The atomic bomb, the most powerful tool of terror humanity has ever produced, or the greatest lifesaver of all time? Labeling such a weapon as the greatest lifesaver of all time might sound peculiar, but it's not entirely unfounded. In this video, I will delve into the workings, history and impact of the atomic bomb and explain why I believe it has saved a really significant number of lives. However, by no means do I intend to downplay the horrors that this weapon brought about the world towards the end of World War II. Those events mark nadirs in human history, but that's enough from my side. Let's get started. Robert Oppenheimer, known as the father of the atomic bomb, began in early 1942 as the head of the Manhattan Project, working on the development and the construction of the first atomic bomb in human history. For this purpose, the US government gathered numerous leading physicists, chemists, explosive experts and engineers in a highly secretive research facility in Los Alamos, New Mexico. The USA invested enormous resources in creating the first nuclear weapon, driven by the fear that Nazi Germany was on the brink of completing a similar devastating weapon. The United States knew that if the Nazis made a breakthrough in their research before them, a deployed atomic bomb would have incredibly catastrophic consequences for the course of the war. Therefore, the United States spent around $2 billion on the research back then. Today, that would be equivalent to approximately $34 billion. The first nuclear weapon in history was the Trinity bomb, detonated in the desert of New Mexico, 250 kilometers away from the research station. The explosive power of the Trinity bomb was an astounding 21,000 tons of TNT, by far the most powerful bomb in the world at that time. However, at the first atomic bomb test was completed, Oppenheimer expressed his inner conflict as the head of the Manhattan Project. He quoted a line from the Bhagavad Gita, a sacred text from the Hindus.
I remembered the line from the Hindu scripture, the Bhagavad Gita. Vishnu is trying to persuade the prince that he should do his duty, and to impress him takes on his multi-armed form and says, "Now I am become death, the destroyer of worlds."
As the development of the Manhattan Project continued and Nazi Germany unconditionally surrendered, it became evident that dropping the bombs of Little Boy and Fat Man on the Japanese cities Hiroshima and Nagasaki represented just a demonstration of the terror generated by the weapon. The first two bombs, Little Boy and Fat Man, were developed and deployed during the Second World War as part of the Manhattan Project. They differed in their functionality and design. The principle of an atomic bomb is actually quite simple. Atoms can be split into different parts, known as fission products, by bombarding them with neutrons. When an atom is split, it releases high energy in the form of heat, light and ionizing radiation. Additionally, more neutrons get knocked out of the atomic nucleus during this fission process. Now imagine that these released neutrons collide with other atoms, causing them to split as well. This generates even more energy and initiates a chain reaction, which results in a devastating explosion associated with the atomic bomb. Little Boy was the codename for the first atomic bomb used in warfare. On August 6, 1945, it was dropped over the Japanese city of Hiroshima. The concept for this bomb involved achieving nuclear fission through a cannon-like mechanism. The bomb weighed about 4.5 tons and had a long cylindrical shape. Inside the bomb casing was a mass of uranium-235, a fissile material. The bomb used an elongated triggering mechanism to bring a significant portion of the uranium-235 to a critical state. In this context, critical means that enough uranium atoms are close together to sustain this chain reaction for an extended period. This was achieved by firing a massive cylinder of uranium down a tube where it would also encounter a uranium charge at the end, ultimately leading to the desired chain reaction. The second atomic bomb, Fat Man, was dropped over the Japanese city of Nagasaki on August 9, 1945. Unlike a Little Boy, the functionality of Fat Man was based on an implosion method. Fat Man was round and spherical with a diameter of about 3.5 meters. The bomb used plutonium-239 as the fissile material. In Fat Man, a conventional explosive charge was placed around the radioactive fissile material of the bomb. The explosive charge compressed the plutonium-239 through a specialized arrangement to a very high density. The compression was sufficient to push the plutonium-239 into a critical state, initiating a chain reaction of nuclear fissions emanating from the core of the bomb, which resulted in the actual detonation of the atomic bomb. With the dropping of the first two bombs in Japan, the empire declared its surrender, and a few days later, World War II came to an end. However, the development of the atomic bomb did not stop there. On the contrary, the Cold War ensued, accompanied by continued development and production of atomic bombs. During this time, the world found itself on the brink of nuclear war multiple times, but it was always averted in the nick of time. On this day, the number of nuclear weapons worldwide stands at over 12,000, with the largest stockpiles in the United States and Russia. The most powerful bomb ever constructed was the Tsar bomb, developed by the Soviet Union during the Cold War. Its explosive power exceeds that of the Hiroshima bomb by a factor of 4,000. The Tsar bomber possessed an absolutely unprecedented explosive force of over 56 million tons of TNT. If this bomb were detonated within Berlin, the shockwave alone would be so intense that the entire city would be literally swept off the ground. On the website NukeMap, you can simulate and observe the dropping and the effects of all nuclear weapons built so far. The website is linked below the video. In the past, atomic bombs were exclusively dropped from airplanes. Nowadays, there are also missiles equipped with nuclear warheads capable of reaching any point on the globe. And even today, in 2023, atomic weapons continue to play a significant role in society. Particularly due to Russia's invasion of Ukraine, nuclear confrontation has become more likely than it has been since the Cold War. The Russian President Vladimir Putin frequently mentioned that Russia wouldn't hesitate to use nuclear weapons to defend itself in the event of an attack. This statement has alarmed and frightened many people who fear for their safety. This brings us to the social impact of the atomic bomb and why I believe it has already saved countless lives. If you represent the history of humanity as a timeline, you can clearly see a habit occurring along this timeline. People tend to resort to violence to settle their conflicts, especially when they feel confident about winning a dispute, or when they believe they are right, or when they think a country would willingly give up their oil reserves, or when they have France as their neighbor. To be precise, humans have almost always reached for the stick, the stone, the sword, the gun or the grenade whenever something didn't suit them, rather than seeking a diplomatic path for their problems. These conflicts can escalate dramatically, especially when world powers clash over differing ideologies or are simply unhappy with each other's existence. The most recent war involving multiple global powers resulted in a shockingly high death toll, over 58 million casualties. This war, known as World War II, culminated with the display of the most formidable weapon ever seen on Earth, a weapon so powerful and devastating that its use and aftermath would inevitably impact all living beings on the planet. By 2023, the world's most powerful nations possessed such an extensive arsenal of nuclear weapons that a global barrage of detonations would subject the entire planet to their effects. In the event of a nuclear attack, there would always be ample time for a retaliatory strike by another nuclear power. Such a war then always carries the possibility of wiping out the entire human race, as one side can emerge victorious without also losing, given the possession of nuclear weaponry by the opposing side. In the recently released film Oppenheimer, which I highly recommend, Robert Oppenheimer describes this scenario as follows: two scorpions locked in a bottle. Both can only attack the other by putting their own lives at risk. Now, imagine the Cold War, two sides staunchly defending and propagating their respective ideologies, but repeatedly deterred from direct confrontation due to the specter of a nuclear threat. So what happens if this fear factor vanishes completely? What would prevent the Soviet Union and the NATO from engaging in a Third World War over the dominance of Europe and the rest of the world? What would stop both sides from engaging in an open conflict using conventional weaponry like tanks, planes, and submarines? Or, taking an example from recent history, why is NATO only indirectly intervening in Russia's assault on Ukraine? Why not defend a strategically and economically very important nation like Ukraine, subjected to an aggressive invasion with their own troops? Of course, speculating about the past is always conjecture, as we can never truly know how parts would have played out. Nevertheless, I am firmly convinced that the threat of a nuclear apocalypse in a conflict between major powers has saved and continues to save millions of lives. But what is your take on this topic? Is it dangerous to have so many nuclear weapons on Earth? And does it inevitably lead to an all-encompassing war? Or do they maintain a delicate balance and ensure a peaceful future among the world's superpowers? Feel free to share your thoughts in the comments. I welcome every other opinion on this matter. And if you like this video, consider subscribing and giving a thumbs up. Until then, take care and see you next time. Bye.